When test rendering a project, 3ds Max offers a terrific image display feature that goes by the name ActiveShade. The option automatically triggers an updated viewport render each and every time a light or a material in your scene is changed in some way. This video will show you how the ActiveShade works. I'll be using a file named ActiveShade. The scene can be found in the Working Files folder for this chapter. Under a normal production workflow, each time that you've wanted to render your scene, you've found yourself having to head up to the right-hand side of the toolbar and clicking on the Render Production command, sometimes referred to as doing a quick render. And that's always worked great, but it is honestly a little bit of a hassle. To render, have to close the window, change a few things, then have to render again. A lot of steps, and frankly, a lot of moving around on the screen. If the edits that you were making to your scene involved either your lights or your materials, you could have instead chosen to use the software's ActiveShade feature. Let's say, for an example, that we wanted to experiment with a couple of different colors of wood surface for our entertainment center. Maybe thinking that a darker finish or a different color would end up looking better. Let's close the render and open up the material editor by typing M. In addition to the currently applied material on the entertainment center that you can see on the upper left-hand sample slot, I've also thrown together two other wood materials that I thought might look nice as a material finish. Each of those other materials I've named wood, which happens to be the name of the currently applied entertainment center skin. You can verify that by simply selecting the material slot and heading down to the naming field. Now, instead of having to manually render the scene each time a new look has been applied to the furniture surface, I'll instead use ActiveShade. To do that, I'll click on the name of the camera viewport, then in the menu choose Extended Viewports, then ActiveShade. This updating render now gives me a live connection from my materials to my scene. Anytime I make a change, large or small, to a material that's been applied somewhere in the scene, that adjustment will automatically trigger the scene re-rendering. In essence, updating the materials on the fly. Because of the way that I've named the skins that I'm considering using on the entertainment center, using the exact same name as the currently applied material, I can use a special option in the material editor called Put Material to Scene, which avoids any warning messages maybe popping up due to having that specific name already being in the scene. Let's select the darker brown wood material on the middle sample ball on the top, then click on Put Material to Scene. You'll find it on the left-hand side of the horizontal row of icons below the slots. The skin is applied, and ActiveShade automatically re-renders the scene. Let's also do that with the cherry-colored wood on the top right-hand sample ball. Again, because of the way that I've named the material, I can simply click on Put Material to Scene. If I also wanted to quickly change the image displayed on the TV screen, again, with ActiveShade on, seeing the results of that conversion is both quick and easy. Let's go to the skin on the lower right-hand side of the material editor, putting it to the scene. We do, and the scene automatically re-renders with the new image displayed on the television screen. Now, one of the drawbacks of using an ActiveShade viewport is the fact that in doing so, you've essentially lost one of your working windows, being down now to only 3 views to physically manipulate the objects in your scene. When that's a problem, you can instead opt to use what they call a floating ActiveShade. Let's take a look at how that works. To close the ActiveShade, we'll simply right-click in the view, choosing Close. Now, before we get our floating render going, let's open the glass door on the cabinet and take a closer look at the china plate down on the bottom shelf. I'll select the black glass on the front of the cabinet, rotating it to the side. I can then select the plate on the bottom shelf, then change the camera view to perspective by typing P. Once I've done that, I'll use the Zoom Extents Selected command in the lower right-hand corner of my navigation controls. Okay, let's go ahead and slide our material editor to the left-hand side of the screen. Then we'll head up to the far right-hand side of the toolbar to activate our floating ActiveShade. The command can be found by holding down on the Render Production button. ActiveShade will be the last icon in the list. Let's now change the tiling on the material that we have applied to the plate. Navigating to that skin's diffuse color branch, we'll change the tiling values to 2 and 2. Each time we enter a number, the ActiveShade regenerates the render. Now, I also mentioned that Active Shade worked with lights. Let's close both the Material Editor and the floating Active Shade window. We'll then take the perspective viewport back to the camera orientation by typing C. Looking in the top view, you'll see a spotlight that's been positioned to the front left-hand side of the entertainment center. Let's select that light, then reactivate our floating Active Shade. Back in the top view, let's move the spotlight closer to the entertainment center. We'll take it straight up. Once we let go of the mouse with the spotlight being in the new position, the scene automatically re-renders. Let's also see how things would look if the spotlight was taken to the far right side of the top view. So there you go. Each time we move the light, Active Shade updates the scene. It's pretty neat how that updating works. So that'll get you going with using Active Shade. It's a terrific feature whether used as a floater or docked in a viewport. Make sure to put it to work in your next project.